But then it's made for this man's need. I'm glad. It's great. Wonderful. Yes, okay. Why did you like?
Morning. I'm told that we could start, we could crack on. My name is Mircea Mândrescu. I'm a retired military, as you can see, and I have the privilege to be the moderator of this activity, and I hope that I'm not going to stand, let's say, as a break, but only to facilitate an activity that is going to, it's superbly organized up to this time. We are going I'm going to show my gratitude to the organizers, firstly the Euro-Atlantic Center of Romania, which is the main organizer of this forum, very important one. We are now in the second day. The first one met with a lot of success, as it was expected. The activity is going to be organized in a hybrid fashion. We have this in-place activity and as well there are friends in Athens that are going to be with us using the net. Probably it is time for right now to say Kalimera to Athens. And as you can see, and you know already, looking at the program, that we have a superb group of speakers that are going to really be speaking and providing us with informative information, if I'm going to use that word. And as well, I do hope that you are going to provide us with your comments, questions, and why not answers to the issues that are going to be discussed. From the organizational point of view, there will be 2 sessions, and I'm going to say something more about them at the right moment. Thank you all for coming, and right now I'm going to give the floor to the main organizer of this activity, the president, the chairman of the Euro-Atlantic Center, who is going to say something regarding this activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General. I am Lucian Fatu, and bună dimineața, good morning, Kalimera sa Athena. Halfway through our program, we are preparing to start to dig into one of the most dynamic and one of the most significant panels without prejudice to the other events that we witnessed. I'm surrounded by civilian and military outfits, but the esprit de corps is vibrant around the table. Probably it's one of the panels that will be the most coherent in terms of expertise and technical and personal experiences. The Euro-Atlantic Center for Resilience deals with resilience from a conceptual view, from a non-operational view, and what we're trying to do is to articulate the concept of layered resilience that is bringing synergy between the civilian and the military aspects, facets of resilience, and brings the umbrella of protection to the society. As a civilian and as a citizen, of course, I am very interested to learn how we can defend society without informing it, how can we inform society without creating anxieties, and this is the role of facilitating platforms like ours. I thank very much the participants and gratefully acknowledge our colleagues from Athens. So thank you very much, and I hope we have a good discussion.
Thank you very much, sir. Right now, one of the Mars Grucho said that there is no such thing as military intelligence, although I'm going to really say something against it. And a famous Prussian general, Moltke the Elder, says something on the lines that no plan withstand the first encounter with the enemy, and right now we have the opportunity to adapt, and that adaptation speaks about us not having the privilege to meet with the Minister of National Defense, as sometimes things are unfolding unknown and unwarranted, and something appeared on the minister's agenda, and he'll not be able to be with us in this morning, and that's a loss. But we have the privilege, and we have right now an advantage, that we are going to have with us the Secretary of State Sorin Dan Moldovan, who is the Secretary of State for Defense Policy, Planification, and International Relations, and he's going to open this session as a keynote speaker, and he's going to deliver the message from the minister. And of course, some, let's say, ideas from himself. Minister, you have the floor. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Good morning to everybody. First of all, it's a great pleasure for me to be here, and on behalf of the Ministry of Defense, it's a really honor to join you today for the 4th edition of the Euro-Atlantic Resilience Forum, an important event, especially as resilience is key in the security environment that we are living in today. We are living in a time of historic complexity, a time when our security is shaped by uncertainty, competition, and multidimensional threats. The lines between peace, crisis, and conflict are increasingly blurred. Hybrid threats, combining military and non-military tools, cyber and informational means, economic coercion, and social manipulation have become a permanent feature of our security landscape. Russia's aggression against Ukraine is a stark demonstration of how hybrid tactics precede and accompany conventional warfare. The use of disinformation, cyber attacks, energy blackmail, and political interference aims not only to destabilize states, but also to undermine the very foundations of democracy, trust, accountability, and the rule of law. In such a volatile context, resilience becomes our first line of defense. As defined in the EU's comprehensive resilience ecosystem model, resilience is not only about reacting to crisis, it's about anticipating, adapting, and evolving a system. It must be built across all levels of society, whether we are speaking about civic, governance, and services, and also across domains such as information, infrastructure, defense, economy, and law. Resilience against hybrid threats must therefore be systematic, interconnected, and of whole society. It is not enough to strengthen one area. Vulnerabilities in one domain can cascade into others. Building resilience means understanding these dependencies, designing redundancy, and ensuring that societies can recover strong from the shocks. Unity and solidarity are the core of this effort. They are not only the pillars of our alliance, but the convenient tissues of our societies, the trust that keeps institutions and citizens aligned in the face of oppression. As the European Union's strategic compass and NATO's resilience commitment emphasize, resilience is a shared responsibility and a shared value. Now here are these dynamics more visible than on the eastern flank. From the Baltic to the Black Sea, we see hybrid activities aimed at testing our cohesion. The repeated violations of NATO and EU airspace, cyber intrusions, propaganda campaigns, sabotage attempts, manipulations of migration, and instrumentalization of energy. These are some examples. Romania, its allies, and Europe have responded with concrete measures to strengthen our deterrence and resilience posture. Enhanced vigilance activities, such as Eastern Sentry, the forward land forces, enhanced air policing, and the recent initiatives like European Drone Defense Initiative and the Eastern Flank Watch strengthens situational awareness and protection along our eastern borders. These measures are also complemented by developing hybrid resilience baselines, investing in critical infrastructure protection, and supporting partners facing hybrid coercion. The Black Sea and the Western Balkans are regions of enduring strategic importance for the security of Europe. They are both crossroads of culture, trade, and strategic interests, but also long-standing targets of hybrid destabilizations. For Romania, these two regions have always held particular significance. We have consistently contributed to stability in these regions through participation in NATO and EU missions, through our bilateral support to partners, and through sustained diplomatic, economic, and security engagement. Our efforts have aimed at consolidating democratic institutions, building resilience, and ensuring that these regions remain part of the European and Euro-Atlantic security architecture. The Southeast Europe Defense Ministerial process is also an important component for stability and security of the Black Sea and the Western Balkans. For the third time, Romania held the chairmanship between 2023 and 2025. I just want to mention that amongst many accomplishments during our chairmanship, the Republic of Moldova became a full member, as well as the fact that resilience was a main line of effort during our time at the helm of SEDM. I just wanted to highlight the importance of cooperation, the need for a common understanding, and especially the advantage we can gain if we share the lessons learned about building resilience and countering hybrid threats. The Republic of Moldova stands today as a remarkable example of courage and determination. Despite an immense Russian hybrid campaign, combining disinformation and propaganda, Moldova has continued on its European path. Last year's presidential elections and this year's parliamentary elections have reaffirmed that Moldovan people's democratic choice. Their success in the face of adversary is proof that resilience is not only institutional, but also societal, built on citizens' trust in democracy and their belief in a European future. Romania has stood and will continue to stand firmly beside the Republic of Moldova in strengthening its institutions, resilience and defense capabilities against hybrid threats. Ladies and gentlemen, resilience is not a destination, but a continuous process of learning, adapting, and acting together. Our strength lies in our unity, our values, and our capacity to protect our democratic system from those who seek to undermine them. In the face of hybrid challenges, resilience is Europe's strategic advantage. For Romania, it is both a national priority and a contribution to collective security from the Black Sea to the Western Balkans, from our societies to our shared institutions. Let us continue to build resilience, comprehensively, inclusively, and together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and please convey to the Minister our appreciation for this very high-level message that is coming from him, and as well our regret that he wasn't able to be with us, although we know that he wanted to be. So we adapted already, and we had the Secretary of State delivering the message from the Minister, and I think that we are going to jump to the first session of the activity, and it's about the political military component. And we've heard about, or from the political component, the high level, which is the guidance that we are receiving, and that is normal to have that guidance. And right now we are going to go to, as well, a very important part of the team, and to the, I would say, specialists. And we are going to go to Athens, and we have the privilege to listen from Major General Ioannis Kores, who is the director of the branch strategy and policy defense planning capabilities in Athens, a very nice place, a very important headquarters. Looking to the CV of General Kores, I discovered, happily I would say, that we are born the same in terms of the branch, military branch, because he graduated from the Signals Military School, Military Academy. I did the same. He is a little bit younger than me, but so I graduated from that Signals in '84. And looking at, he was involved in the electronic warfare activities as well. He commanded a Signals battalion. He went through the normal military education, being attending the Joint War College in 2014, Hellenic National Defense College in Greece. And he had important positions inside the Greek headquarters, military headquarters. In 2017, he was appointed ID Director for Defense Programs and Principal Contracts. In 2020, he received his promotion, the big step, from being a colonel to be a brigadier general. in 2023, after just 3 years, he received the second star, and he was promoted to Major General and as well as Director of D Division Defense Planning Organization. And from 2024, he was assigned, he has already 1 year in his current position as Director of City Division Transformation, Innovation, and Defense Technology. So transformation, innovation, and defense technology, speaking about capabilities. And always, when you are speaking about capabilities, you are speaking about how you are going to calibrate your capabilities to the future. Because it takes some time between a capability a thought is, let's say, appears in someone's mind, is thought over, you have a plan, and you have to be sure that when you start, when you accept, when you decide that that capability it was do you need, and when you start to invest a lot of money in that capability, you have to be totally sure or pretty sure that what you're going to have in 7 years or 10 years time is going to be relevant at that time. And that's about perspective, that's about really thinking through in order to be sure that you, in a way, are the owner of the future in terms of realizing what is going to happen when you have to capability. Without further ado, I'm giving the floor to Athens. Athens, do you copy?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
So thank you very much, General, for being with us. I hope that the link, the electronic link, that's your responsibility because you are a signals, I'm not anymore.
That's very good.
Hopefully that you managed to have this very clear link over the internet with us. And thanks a lot for coming, for accepting to be a speaker. Greetings to you and to all your team. And right now I'm going to floor to you in Athens. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As he mentioned, Major General Correcciones, and let me say my whole, let's say, I would regard my capacity. I'm actually, okay, I'm dealing also with innovation, but I'm actually the Director of Strategy, Policy, Defense Planning, and Capabilities Development Directorate of the Hellenic National Defense General Staff. It is both an honor and privilege to address you today on behalf of the Hellenic National Defense General Staff, and in my capacity to convey the warm greetings and best wishes of the Chairman of the South Eastern Europe Defense Ministerial Process, Ambassador Eleftherios Angelopoulos, who was not able to be here today. Allow me to begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to the organizers of this important discussion, to our host of the Embassy of Romania in Athens, and to the esteemed participants and representatives of the Ministries of Defense of Romania and the Republic of North Macedonia, the Commander of SIBRIC, and the distinguished experts from the Euro-Atlantic Resilience Center. Your presence to this high-level panel today reflects our shared understanding of the importance to strengthen the resilience of our nations and our collective commitment to regional peace and stability. One of the most notable accomplishments of the settlement chairmanship of Romania has been the launch of a ministerial endorsement of the new SED project, a platform for enhancing resilience. Hellenic Republic strongly welcomed the proposal from the early stages and has officially declared the intention to participate as a member nation in the implementation phase. The concept paper, as approved in Tirana, provides a comprehensive roadmap from institutional training and resilience benchmarking to the integration of resilience objectives into exercises with SESIM. There are not abstract goals, actually. They are achievable and measurable deliverables directly aligned with SEM's broader objectives. The topic of today's panel, strategic resilience of certain states against hybrid operations between prevention and response, could not be more relevant to the security environment we currently face. Hybrid operations are no longer an abstract concept. They are a daily strategic reality. They blur the lines between peace and conflict, between civilian and military domains, and between truth and manipulation. Through disinformation, cyber attacks, economic coercion, energy pressure, and the instrumentalization of migration, hybrid tactics aims not only to destabilize governments, but also to erode public trust, social cohesion, and democratic institutions. For the certain nations, positioned at a unique geopolitical crossroad between East and West, North and South, these challenges are amplified by our diversity and interconnectedness, yet they also highlight our greatest strength, our unity, cooperation, and shared commitment to security, resilience, and collective prosperity. Since its establishment, the third process has served as a platform for dialogue, conference building, and practical cooperation among the defense institutions of our region. Through its initiatives and projects, as well as the cooperation between our armed forces, either bilaterally or in the framework of CIBRIC, we have strengthened interoperability and mutual understanding. However, strategic resilience requires us to go further. It demands that we are not only prepared to respond to hybrid threats, but also build systems that not only prevent, but also to deter and absorb them. Systems rooted in whole of government and the whole of society approach and in multinational cooperation. In the respect of said process framework, offers a unique comparative advantage. It brings together countries with diverse experiences, capabilities, and perspectives, allowing us to develop complementary approaches to resilience, whether in cyber defense, strategic communication, critical infrastructure protection, or civil-military coordination. The title of our panel wisely emphasizes the balance between prevention and response. Prevention means early detection, awareness, and education, building societal immunity against manipulation and misinformation. Response means rapid coordination, shared intelligence, and the ability to act decisively and proportionately when hybrid challenges occur. Our efforts must therefore focus on strengthening both dimensions through institutional cooperation, trust building, and the continuous adaptation of our national and regional frameworks. In this regard, the Hellenic Republic, through the Hellenic National Defense General Staff and the collaboration with our said partners, places particular emphasis on enhancing regional cyber defense cooperation, promoting resilience, education, and awareness among military and civilian leaders, and integrating hybrid threat scenarios in our joint exercises to improve readiness and coordination. The future of our region depends on our ability to adapt, anticipate, and act together. Hybrid operations thrive in division, but they fail where unity, transparency, and cooperation prevail. Our task, therefore, is clear: to turn vulnerability into strength, to transform coordination into resilience, and to ensure that the same continues to serve as a model of regional partnership and solidarity. Speaking about strategic resilience, all in all, what we need to develop is a concept of strategic resilience and the framework within our organizations, not only as individual states, but also collectively among our states, reflecting our capacity to anticipate, absorb, and adapt to environmental disruptions while sustaining our long-term strategic objectives. It should extend beyond traditional notion of risk management by emphasizing adaptability and renewal in response to dynamic and uncertain context. This strategic resilience should integrate perspectives from complex adaptive systems, dynamic capabilities, and foresight in order to process the ability to continuously reconfigure our resources and competencies to address rapidly changing environments. This capacity for renewal should be underpinned by flexibility, organizational learning by lessons learned, a culture of innovation and leadership. It is imperative also to demonstrate an ability to transform crisis into catalyst for renewal, leveraging adversity to stimulate innovation and strengthen competitive advantage, representing a dynamic and proactive orientation posture towards uncertainty to ensure long-term sustainability. It is not merely about recovery from disruption, but about building the capability to evolve continuously, maintaining coherence, and while adapting to a never-changing environment. So let us continue to invest in trust, dialogue, and mutual support, the most powerful defenses against hybrid challenges of any kind. On behalf of the Chairman and the Hellenic National Defense General Staff, I wish to reaffirm our commitment to this shared mission. Together, we can ensure that the southeastern European region remains secure, stable, and resilient, a pillar of peace in the increasingly complex world. Thank you really for your attention.
Thank you very much, General, for your insights. Thank you for accepting us as the recipients of your thinking. In NATO, there is a kind of hat for the military officers, hat philosophy. Let me explain about it. So sometimes military officers, commanders from all the branches or services, armed services, they have a lot of hats. Let's say, for example, that the Admiral Commanding Officer of the American Admiral commanding the Joint Force Headquarters in Naples, she's not just a NATO commander, but as well he has other hats. He is the commander of the 6th Fleet, and as well the commander of the maritime component of the American forces in Europe, and as well the commander officer of the strike for NATO. So the hat philosophy is very important. And we have to apply that philosophy in our activity too, because if the Secretary of State Moldovan was wearing the hat of the Minister of National Defense in delivering the message from His Excellency, right now we have Colonel Vasile Ionescu, the head of the International Defense Cooperation Directorate inside the Department for International, let's say, Defense Policy Planning and International Relations, delivering the message from the Secretary of State that just departed. And after this message, after the Colonel taking the floor in place of the Secretary of State, I'm going to ask for your comments regarding what was said, and for your insights as well, for your questions if there are, in order to have, I'm going to give you, after this session, I'm going to give you the opportunity to express yourself, your thinkings, your impressions regarding the activity that we are in right now. I mean, strategic resilience and hybrid operations. So, without further ado, Colonel, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, General. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning, everyone. Kalimera. I am very honored to participate in this prestigious event, the Euro-Atlantic Resilience Forum, and to address a substantial and challenging topic, strategic resilience of Southeastern Defense Ministerial States against hybrid operations. allow me first to convey my deep appreciation for the excellent and long-standing collaboration between the Ministry of National Defense in Romania and the Euro-Atlantic Resilience Center since its creation and establishment in Bucharest more than 4 years ago. Based on this solid foundation of partnership, the idea to have a dedicated panel within the forum to discuss hybrid issues and resilience aspects under the SEDM format, aiming at fostering strategic dialogue and sharing ideas, thoughts, and good practices on building resilient defense architectures against hybrid operations only came natural. Before diving into the topic, I would like to salute Major General Core's participation as the representative of the Hellenic Republic, which has recently assumed the SEDM chairmanship from Romania. Let me also address a warm welcome to Romania to Brigadier General Bitri, on my right side, the Sibric commander, to whom I would like to extend our gratitude and appreciation for the outstanding collaboration during the Romanian SEDM presidency timeframe, 2023-2025. Dear General, Romania will continue to advocate the need of strengthening the relevance, readiness, and interoperability of Sibric as the only operational pillar of the SEDM initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, almost 30 years have passed since the establishment of the Southeastern European Defense Ministerial Process, shortly SEDM, when our ministers of defense got together in Tirana in 1996 for the first time under this initiative format. Ever since, SEDM has proven to be a key platform for promoting regional stability, deepening practical cooperation among our nations, and advancing our shared Euro-Atlantic values within a forum of truly open discussions. SEDM gathers countries from the wider Black Sea area and from the Western Balkans, two strategically important regions with interrelated security challenges. That is why SEDM is quite a unique and appropriate forum to discuss about the security and defense aspects affecting and concerning the two regions, but not limited to them. Black Sea region has long been a geopolitical, economical, and culturally important crossing standing at the intersection of Europe, Asia, and Caucasus. It is home to 3 NATO members, Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey, and NATO EU partners and aspiring members, Republic of Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia. Today, the Black Sea is no longer a buffer zone. It is a pressure point. What happens here affects not only the states in the region, but also the security of Europe, with interconnected challenges from the Eastern Mediterranean to the Middle East, from the Baltics to the Red Sea. Notwithstanding, in our perspective, and I know that many of you here today share this perspective, Black Sea is a hotspot and will remain as such even after a future long-awaited ceasefire and peace agreement in Ukraine. Important oil and gas pipelines, essential undersea infrastructure, shipping and communication lines are crisscrossing the Black Sea region. Therefore, the security of this essential infrastructure is critical for the commercial routes and the overall prosperity in this area and beyond. The Black Sea region is also a key transit corridor for energy, which against the background of the war in Ukraine and its consequences, has become an increasingly important component of national security. In the same time, this provided an opportunity for all European states to diversify their energy sources and consequently decreasing and eroding Russia's ability to weaponize energy. On the same note, one of the vulnerable parts of Europe is the Western Balkans, where states in the region are more and more exposed to various overt and covert hybrid actions led by Russia or through its process. The continued implementation of support policies in relation to the Western Balkans countries with the major objectives of permanently and irreversibly anchoring them into the architecture of the European and Euro-Atlantic institutions remains one of the priorities of Romania's security policy. The importance Romania attaches to the Western Balkans region is reflected also in our operational commitments within NATO and EU frameworks. Many of you are aware that Romania provides the highest contribution in the theaters and holds the command of EUFOR Althea operation until the end of this year, while we continue to remain a constant contributor to NATO KFOR mission. As we are in the process of renewing the National Defense Strategy and the White Paper on Defense, the Black Sea, together with the Western Balkans, will remain a strategic importance for us. We will maintain our international commitments in supporting the stabilization of the Western Balkans and in speeding up the European integration processes for the countries from both regions. I will not insist on economic, security, and political importance of the two regions, which in our view is becoming more and more significant, but I will focus instead on a few relevant aspects when it becomes about hybrid operations and what prevents us in becoming more stable, secure, and stronger. Distinguished audience, within the complex and dynamic international security environment, there is no single state that can provide entirely on its own the necessary highly trained manpower and resources required in order to construct a national security system capable, when called upon, of fully deterring and defeating any occurring threat. The widespread, multifaceted, and combined methods used in hybrid operations, such as Little Green Man and false flag operations, cyber attacks, disinformation, propaganda, fake news, sabotage, political and economic pressure, showed us that there is a very fine line between peace and wartime, making it difficult to attribute the disruptive actions, but also to respond conventionally. That is the reason why international security cooperation is a must and needs to be reflected in joint measures against hybrid warfare and hybrid operations as a way of mitigating the growing risk associated to the fast-paced development of information and communication technologies over the last decades. Against this background, it has become very important to define what constitutes a false flag operation, what is the national critical infrastructure, what can be defined as a cyber attack, but more than that, it is critical to identify the attacker and the nature and the extent of defensive actions that the security and defense sectors should and could perform. Moreover, the war in Ukraine demonstrates us once more that the hybrid warfare precedes and even overlaps conventional actions. Let me offer you just a few indications regarding the complex challenges we face in this region, which, if not addressed properly, will continue to seriously affect not only our collective security, but the welfare of our citizens and the prosperity of our countries. The ongoing war of aggression conducted by the Russian Federation in Ukraine since February 2022 remains to this day a rather complex and hard to be resolved matter that has confirmed that Russia is the most significant, direct, and multidimensional long-term threat to our security and to peace and stability in the region. It comes as no surprise the Russian actions that affect the airspace security of many European countries, which are facing repeated airspace violations by the Russian drones or aircraft, and the danger represented by floating naval mines and GPS jamming, which significantly disturb freedom of navigation in the Black Sea. All of them are part of the hybrid operations that Russia is willing to continue performing. These actions, alongside propaganda and disinformation campaigns, aim to test our capacity of reaction and to undermine NATO's coherence and unity in order to diminish political will in supporting Ukraine, to undermine the Ukrainian capability in exporting its grains worldwide, but also to affect the resilience of our citizens and societies. We could add also the spread of fake news and conspiracy theories and the direct support provided to political parties that embrace anti-NATO and anti-European agendas with the objective to increase the Euroscepticism and erode the public support for Western values and norms. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the questions would be how we, democratic countries, can cope with the hybrid challenges, considering the globalized but also the more confrontational and complex world that we live in. For sure, among other lines of actions, Stratcom and resilience should be properly addressed. Stratcom is an efficient tool in our efforts to counter disinformation. It serves not only to list and analyze the potential threats to our communication efforts, but also to establish the proper ways to address and react to these threats, define and assign real functional structures to deal with specific issues, and measures the efficiency of these actions in order to make the necessary adjustment in a timely manner. Resilience requires constant adaptation and the ability to quickly and effectively bounce back as new vulnerabilities and threats emerge. In NATO, the resilience is seen as the first line of deterrence and defense, and the national resilience is the first line of allied defense. This brings me back to the Romanian SEDM chairmanship that had been performed under the motto resilience, commitment, stability, these three key words, and that gives me the opportunity to proudly say that we succeeded in achieving almost all of our ambition goals that have been since the beginning. It was a joint and long-lasting effort of all of us, and I would like to take the advantage of this moment to commend all SEDM nations and also our Comsibri present here and his staff for their commitments and dedication. In 2023, in Istanbul, our ministers of defense approved the upgrading status of Republic of Moldova to SEDM from observers to full member, while next year in Tirana, the ministers approved two important documents with regard to the strengthening relevance of SIBRING and the new project in the field of resilience. Romania is proud to lead, for a time span of 2 years, the implementation of this new project on resilience called a Platform for Enhancing Member States' Resilience, and to announce that apart from this event, including that are to be planned also for the next year in 2026. We look forward to seeing you next year at our event. We will remain committed and active member of SEDM, and you may count on our full support in advancing all projects that contribute to the success and relevance of our regional initiative. The SEDM values will continue to guide our common efforts, ensuring that the SEDM community remains a pillar of cooperation, trust, and peace in Southeastern Europe. I am definitely convinced that the cooperation between the Romanian Ministry of National Defense and the Euro-Atlantic Resilience Center will continuously grow up in the future, and we will support each other with the purpose to advocate and to invest more and wisely for transforming our society in a more resilient one. Thank you for your attention and for continuous dedication to our shared mission. Congratulations, Euro-Atlantic Resilience Center, for this noteworthy international event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel, and please convey our gratitude to State Secretary Moldovan for these very kind words and for his directions. As I promised already, you have right now the opportunity to express yourself, to ask questions, to make comments regarding what you've learned already, or regarding the subject of this session, which is the political-military component, of course, with the direction of the speaking about hybrid ops, the title and the aim of our activity, and as well the strategic resilience within the framework of SEDM. So you have your opportunity right now. Good. Since you are going to, let's say, analyze whether or not you want to take the floor, I have a question and an interest to strategos chores. Did I say correctly, strategos?
Strategos, yes, that's correct.
Strategos chores, yes. Strategos means general, I believe, in Greece, and I discovered that by remembering myself about Mauritius with strategicon, that famous opus of that military thinker. So, general, I have, as a former strategic planner, because my last position from which I retired was the head of the director of the strategic planning directorate with the Romanian general staff. I have the utmost respect to and appreciation to the difficulties of foreseeing the future. If I have to borrow, giving the normal royalty to the guy from which I'm borrowing, I would say, yeah, if Clausewitz, the famous military thinker and writer who, wrote that from Kriege after 2 defeats, so it is about Jena and Neustadt in 1806, after the Prussian armed forces were defeated 2 times by Napoleon, Jena and Auerstadt. They decided to think about what happened, to draw the necessary lessons learned, and of course, to see whether or not they did something correctly during those battles. And one of the consequences of those defeats was Clausewitz taking up the issue, looking at the situation, and writing on war, or in the German language, from Kriege. And he spoke about the Nebels des Kriege, the fog of war. And I'm going to borrow this fog of war and to say something about, I'm totally conscientious about the fog of the future, because the future is not known. We are not the owners. We do believe about it. We have to calibrate. We want to calibrate our actions, the present actions, in order to make sure as much as possible that what we are doing today is calibrated, is relevant in the future. And my question to General Kores will be, how do you see the influence of emerging, disrupting technologies, which are some of them not that emerging, they are already here with us. How do you see them as influencing what we have to fight, the hybrid ops, and how do you see today's preparation, your armed forces, the SDMC, and some of the good guys, let's say, how are we prepared to face this emerging, disrupting technology in terms of understanding the situation in which we are, and as well understanding what we have to do in order to fight successfully, I would say, the situation that is going to be brought to us by this, let's say, technological evolution. Do you think that we have grasped correctly?
Yeah, thank you for this question. It's very interesting question, actually, and very challenging. Thinking about emerging and disruptive technology, the challenge we have to face is how to integrate it in many aspects, in civilian sector, of course, and as well in the military sector. And as you may know, there is a long discussion the last 5 years, I would say. I would not say before, just 5 years, because as you said, it's emerging and disruptive technology. And those technologies are getting more and more in our everyday and routine life. For example, speaking in NATO for artificial intelligence 5 years, it was something, let's say, in the cloud, we were not able to realize what exactly it is, and so on. Now, it is on our cell phone, and and even a child can use artificial intelligence. So the challenge is how to use it. It's very good having these technologies, but on the other hand, it would be very bad if there is no a good usage for this. So we should think very seriously how to be involved and engage in technologies in our business, let's say. As I said, there's a long discussion on this. For those who are not going to be adapted soon in this disruption, they stay behind the technology, and they were not able to cope with those challenges, because this technology is a revolution. It's a new reality. In that respect, in Greece, in Hellenic Defense General Staff, speaking also my capacity as the capability development and innovation, we try to find ways how to do it, but we'll have to do it fast on one hand. On the other hand, we try to do it in the best way. So, okay, we talk with other states. We need to talk with other states how to do it. We need to exploit the experience from NATO, EU members, ACT as well, SAFE as well, in order to have, let's say, an evenly development. That's our general perspective, that's our framework we work on this, and this is the strategy actually we develop towards this challenge, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ευχαριστώ, I think I have to say.
Yes, ευχαριστώ.
Thanks. Okay. So, second opportunity. Yeah? Good, please.
No. Okay. I'm a retired Colonel Avram Yanku, and I want firstly to join the commending words for the organizer for this meeting here. It seems very well organized and prepared, and the theme of the panel is also very interesting, which is a kind of strategic approach of between the prevention and the response. And this, I'm trying now to make some comments to get to my question, and it's about the Southeastern Defense Ministerials. There are countries involved in this approach, in this initiative, and thanks also to the speakers for their very insightful information. And I want to pick something, some on the topics that the speakers mentioned about the resilience and exercising objectives, and about the Stratcom, and how big the Stratcom can be, the role of the Stratcom in countering the hybrid threats, especially in propaganda. And related to the prevention and response here, my first question is, how do you think, and the question is addressed to both speakers, how to properly balance the prevention and the response, which could be the first and the other. It should be a balance here. And now I am going a bit further within the Stratcom. And as I was told when I followed the courses on the Stratcom, it was the mantra that you should first do things better and then to communicate them. So not only to communicate something, but to do good things and then to loudly communicate them. So the first question is here, how to balance the prevention and the response. So it's how is to be act proactive and reactive in this domain. And the second topic that I wanted to address, it was about this whole of society resilience. And I am reading a bit from the NATO policy on reserves, because I'm a reservist and I'm interested in this topic, and I want to find out from the speakers here and from the SEDM approach on how the reserves are seen in playing a role in enhancing the societal resilience. And I'm reading from the policy, NATO policy on reserves. Reserves can enhance military and societal resilience in strengthening the nation's ability to prepare for, respond to, and recover from crisis. So it's a NATO policy, also countries, nations in SEDM that are NATO and members. And I want to find out from the speakers here how they see the role of the reservists in this, let's call it resilience infrastructure, societal resilience. Thank you.
So reserve military forces. Okay. So General, your place is in front at war and as well as, let's say, parades. But right now I'm giving you the floor in order to sketch an answer to two answers actually to the question to the questions that were posed by Colonel Avram Iancu. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you again. With regard, let's say the first part of the remark, what is the balance between prevent and the balance? I would put another term on this. I would say also deter. It's not only to prevent, but also to deter. That we need to do is to have a deep foresight in the future, and this is the challenge regarding the strategic aspect, because you have to guess the future, let's say. On the other hand, you have to put, let's say, valid estimates and having a deep knowledge what exactly would be about the risk assessment, but it's not only risk assessment, it's something more how to cope with a situation. Maybe you are not able to define them precisely. So deterrent is another thing. Deterrent is something else we have to think in order to avoid situations, future situations. With regard to the reserve and how we can use the reserve, this is actually, it's another resource, human resource. So, this resource should be activated. And this, of course, what we need is to offer the knowledge to reservists in order to assist in cases I described before. So yes, there is plenty of room, plenty of space in the sector of resilience for them, and we should, of course, proceed with this. With regard now, let's say, with my country here in Greece, we have this plan for the reservists in order to, let's say, exploit their experience and how it can be used in order to support situations that are in a kind of, let's say, unpredictable cases, in crisis situation actually. Yes, that's my perspective. As I said, the reserve are resources that we should exploit and use properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Thank you so much. I'm not a Stratcom expert, but I will try to answer and do my best. I'm more keen on international relations than in Stratcom, and if there is somebody in the room that can help giving some ideas regarding the usage of Stratcom. But from my personal perspective, I will not use balance between prevention and response. It's not a balance, it's the best use of both of them. Why is that? It's like in medicine, prevent to have a flu or having a pill after that. So we have to design the most appropriate tools in order to have also the prevention with the, to announce the military actions, because we are in this area with the possible consequences. And after that, speaking about response, after something bad or difficult, a threat is in place. So both of them, from my perspective, are important. We have just to address and to have and I mentioned during my speech, to have the appropriate institutions that are designed and have the legal resources, manpower to address. I know that you all of them know that SEDM has, as an example, 16 states, including the United States of America. And each country has its own policy regarding this Stratcom. Even NATO, EU, as a whole organization, multinational organization, is trying to have a common approach regarding the usage. But the usage is also at the state level. How each is applying to its own society. This is about. And speaking about the role of military reservists, for sure, all of you know about the latest legal framework created by the Ministry of Defense to have the best usage of this kind of personnel in order to strengthen the resilience of the society from the military perspective. Indeed, is a matter of implementing this kind of laws in the close future, on medium term also, and for sure we will have in, I don't know, in terms of years, the best approach that can be tailored to the Romanian society. But indeed, there is a need for more reservists, being conscripts or whatever is the functionality from they are coming into the system, being money, being daily business or whatever. But we count on this kind of reservist. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No hands? I have one, my hand. General Chorus, I'm coming forward against to you in order to try to use your knowledge and experience. Resilience to everybody is not just a very fashionable word. Strategic resilience is not another version of that fashionable word. Resilience is fundamentally important, fundamentally complicated, a lot of cogs working at the same time, and is something, to me, is the basis of everything. And I think that it would be superfluous for me to try to convince you about it, because you are already convinced. But from the planning development perspective, you have, roughly speaking, two possibilities. Firstly, to choose some capabilities to be developed using only your national means, I mean to keep them close to your national chest, and as well for other capabilities to try to solve the requirements that are encapsulated in the activity of having them born, to try to use the international environment. And my question would be, in your assessment, your personal assessment, of course, what is the capability from these many capabilities that are all of them forming the resilience and strategic resilience, what should be kept very close to the national chest, and what should be probably best done in the international environment? And if you could, of course, go further and saying, and out of these capabilities that are best solved in international environment, which one are going to be best solved within the framework of the SEDM? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thinking about the capabilities, okay, it's a long discussion because the capabilities, it's a capability. Let's first define what the capability is, and what we need. Okay, there is, let's face some specific methodology to define what capabilities, what the capabilities requirements actually. But first of all, you need to find out what the shortfalls are, what you need to cover first. And secondly, what's very challenging so is to prioritize. And this is one of the biggest challenges. The other thing is capabilities will not only refer to military capability, definitely. We also refer the capabilities in order to respond to resilience challenges. It's more widely. You need the civilian sector, you need the government, it's intergovernmental, because we are speaking about the civil sector. So I would say the best and the most important capability we need to develop is knowledge. It's knowledge and to define the threat. And as I said, we need to have a deeper foresight. And let me say the word, if I can give this word, to guess what would be happen in the future, near future, and at least midterm future. When I was saying knowledge is first of all to realize what exactly goes on in not only in our area but globally. In the area we live today, currently, it's very interesting, I would say. And it's very interesting because the world is changing in a very fast and rapid pace. We don't have the constant we used to have in the future. We all challenging, we all facing, and have concerns about what would be the near future. I would like to stress the near future security environment, for example. And our area, the Balkans area, and the southern area, let's say area of responsibility, is an area whose challenge is in the middle, let's say, in of an arc of a stable land. Russia, Ukraine, Middle East, and all stuff. So the security environment is very challenging. And this is the first thing, in order to make the assessment what would be and what would be the reflection to the resilience. So, yes, the main capability we have to develop is the knowledge, not only at the military level, but also in the civilian sector as well. having civilians ready to respond in case of crisis, whatever crisis it is, and unexpected situation. Thank you for this.
So my full gratitude for your contribution and for your participation up to this point. If there are comments to the comments or for other issues, regarding other issues. Okay? Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. My name is Verej Petru. I'm a major and also a teacher at the National Defense University here in Bucharest. I would like to offer, if I may, a point of view for the esteemed gentleman's two questions that he put forward earlier. Regarding the first topic, the how to balance deterrence and action against hybrid threats. From my research has led me to believe that in order to be able to deter hybrid action, you actually have to have an actor to deter. That does not necessarily mean that certain measures may be taken at a national level, measures like educating the Romanian society about the actual dangers of hybrid warfare, extremism, and so on. This will connect me to the second question. This is where the armed forces reserves may have an important role. You know, in military operations, we have this concept of information activities. Now, these information activities may be oriented towards educating the population through certain programs that the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Education and Research can build together. Practically, this means that Army reserves may be employed in, I don't know, schools, high schools, to start educating the young about the dangers and how strengthening their resilience to external influences, negative external influences. This is just one example. My research has also led me to believe that in order to have a clear balance between deterrence and action may be based on this synchronizing of three components. First of all, we have the conceptual component, which basically means building policies and framing concepts of our idea of countering hybrid threats and strengthening national resilience. The second component would be the physical one. We need capabilities, we need to train our experts and our forces to employ these capabilities, and we have to maintain a constant state of readiness. And the third component is the moral one. The moral component basically means that we need to ensure that we maintain a, so to speak, a moral high ground in employing our capabilities. Also, we need to have a just cause for doing this, because if we do not, there may be some negative effects of employing the physical component. Negative effects, like an example, public opinion might be altered. This is what Russia is doing in Ukraine, for example. Even though, or a better example would be what happens in the Middle East, in Gaza. Now, the military operations of Israel may be planned by synchronizing the physical and the conceptual component, but the lack of synchronization with the moral component has led to a globally spread, how to say, condemning the international security community is severely condemning what Israel is doing in Gaza, and that's just an example. So this is my opinion. In order to build what the gentleman has excellently put out, we need to synchronize these three components, and one of the important roles that forces reserves may have is contributing to coherently and well-financed programs into educating our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the insights and for the opinions. Are there other opinions? Okay, probably that should be it. General Koreth and Colonel, and our gratitude to your contribution. I'm looking forward to Athens, and if you have time to stay, that will be extremely nice and very useful for us. And while after listening to the presentations that are coming, if you do have comments or questions, please feel free to hit the button and let us know that you want to intervene, and you'll have, normally you'll have the floor. So I would say that's the end of the first session, and we are going to step further to go into the second session of this panel that is called Societal Resilience Component, a fundamental issue. And if we agreed already that speaking about the, let's say, armed forces resilience, the subject is complicated or very complicated, when we are going up and when you want to speak and when we are speaking about societal resilience, the difficulties are multiplying. So societal is so much important, so much complicated. And right now, unfortunately, in a way, in the most fundamental way, we have the opportunity to listen, to see, to observe the conflict that is very close to the Romanian border, conflict that came from the aggression that the Russian Federation is still applying to Ukraine. And we see Ukrainians resisting and fighting still, not after 2 weeks of a war, but going to almost 4 years of fighting in spite of the observable differences and non-uniformity of the capabilities of the two states. And that speaks about the great resilience of the Ukrainian society that are making the Ukrainian citizens, the Ukrainian organizations, the Ukrainian armed forces capable to withstand the pressure that is applied upon them by the Russian Federation, which, you know, are fighting not only on the front, but are bombarding, hitting a lot of civilian objectives, are targeting electricity and energy and so on and so forth, because all of you are watching and you are well aware of what is happening in the northern part of my country. We have the privilege to listen to right now, to invite Brigadier General Bilbil Bitri, and he is the commander of Southeastern Europe Brigade, SUBRIG. And of course, the general will come and will say, hey, you, come down, put your feet on the ground, because he is coming from the, let's say, art of the possible, from a military organization that is having doctrine, training, resources available, and is going to provide us with, let's say, a very practical perspective, a military practical point of view regarding the subject that we are discussing today. General is a professional military with many years of service on his scorecard and with, of course, a distinguished military career. What makes him relevant to the topic in discussion is his experience in defense planning. We are discussing about capabilities at national level, and his interaction with international organizations, mainly NATO, and in his current position as commander of the SEDM's military instrument, which is the SUBRIG. Of course, he is a follower of Skanderberg. Thank you very much for Skanderberg. And the famous Albanian military ruler and hero was in a way contemporary with our Stefan the Great, Stefan cel Mare, which, you know, was fighting successfully a lot of people. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you General Bibil Bitri from Albanian Army. General, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, General. I don't know where to start. I'm flattered by your words, first of all. And since we are in the hybrid thing talking, I think in future times we have to start the hybrid way. So don't introduce the speakers, because in my case you are raising the bar too high and I might disappoint the people in the room. But
you have to
I'll give a shot. I'll do my best not to disappoint. Good morning to all of you. If Athens is still on, Kalimera, and Bună dimineața. Now, I cannot speak in 16 languages, being a SEDM member. I can go in 6 languages, like the greetings, but I'm stopping with 3. So it's a profound pleasure. It's an immense pleasure for me, an honor to be in here. And I'll take this opportunity initially, or first, to echo what was said for the organizers, for the EARC. Thank you very much for being so excellent in organizing this thing, and thank you very much for making me part of this. And also thanks to the speakers that already took the floor this morning. I realized that last night I was going through since yesterday actually, through my notes, and I found out that, okay, they are no longer valid. And I realized I made a mistake, because I attended yesterday opening session and then the strategic session, and there was like almost everything was said, so there was nothing left for me to say. But still, there is always, if there is nothing new to say, there is always a perspective on the things that we know. And that's what I'm going to try to make few points on the perspective from a regional perspective, from the Southeast Europe, and as much as I can on the smaller scale on the CIBRIC. CIBRIC, as was already mentioned, is the military instrument of power of the SEDM process, or Southeast Defense Ministerial process. It started with 7 countries back then in 1999, with Albania, with Bulgaria, Greece, Italy back then, North Macedonia, Romania, and Turkey. And now we are 6 countries. Italy unilaterally decided to break from the initiative in 2015, although it's part of the political process as a SEDM member. And on this note, also I want to take the opportunity to thank the Romanian chairmanship that was already handed over this last summer to Greece. I was pleased and I was privileged for 2 years to work with an excellent team led by Ms. Simona Cojucaru. And I'm convinced, and the proof is in there. She moved the ball. I told her, you are rocking the ship. And the SEDM was rocked for 2 years. And I hope, and I'm confident that the Athenian chairmanship, the Hellenic chairmanship, will take it to the next level. Because at the end of the day, we all strive for the same purpose and same goals. To put in the perspective of this gathering, being more resilient, so we can have a current good time, but a safe and secure and stable future. And that is one of the purposes of this initiative. We know we are living in a time of profound changes. Recently, we just experienced a pandemic. We have a war on the European soil. Cyber actors, state or non-state actors, they are targeting businesses and institutions. And from all these changes that are happening in our environment, we realize, not that we didn't know, but I think we realize that we are more interconnected than we ever been before. But also at the same time, at least if we go back to the COVID year, we realize that there is no country is fully prepared to address challenges of that scale alone. So these are, aside from the changes that are imposed on us, also these changes serve us to learn our lessons and react them, because at the end of the day, it's not only learning the lesson, but how you apply the lesson for the future. And the second mistake that I realized I made yesterday was not having an umbrella. You know, we talk about umbrella when it's a rainy day. And then after the sun comes out, we stop talking about umbrella. And then there is another rainy day and we get wet. And then we realize that, okay, we have to buy an umbrella and have it with us. That brings me to the point that resilience, or the hybrid, let me start from the hybrid threats or hybrid warfare. Although they are a little bit distinct from each other, hybrid warfare is employing the tools. Hybrid threats, and they are mainly military or non-military, but they are human-driven or state actors or non-state actors. And then we have the hybrid threats that includes also the mother nature, but also human, triggered by human mistakes. So on these things, we realize that hybrid warfare has been amongst us. And I was talking last night to some of the colleagues from the EARC, and it's hard to define. In the military perspective, we have first to fifth generation warfare. And one of those warfares is related to the hybrid warfare. And my point last night was, are we in the version or like a sixth generation of warfare, or we are in the hybrid warfare 2.0? Because we had in the fourth generation warfare, we had the hybrid warfare present, but not at the magnitude that we have it today. And that explains the other point that I want to make is going through the history, and was mentioned the great city of Athens. In there, it's an open book of history, but it's an open book also of the evolution of our society. And then you realize that at the end of the tour, I get to the point also by the guide that was almost the same thing, that well, probably we haven't invented anything and we don't have to like necessarily worry, but we have to perfection everything, because there was the Stone Age, there was the Bronze Age, and the things looked similar, but today we have a cell phone, so we don't have a board in there and writing, but the purpose is the same. So we have to have something that is in the context of the day. With the end of the Cold War, we thought like the all-out war is like gone, and the same way we thought also for the hybrid warfare. So that brings me to the point of umbrella. So, oh, the rain is gone, so now forget about the umbrella. And then was 2014 when with the Russian illegal annexation of Crimea. That was the, I would say, the perfect hybrid operational warfare conducted on the modern era. And that made us think, okay, now we have to go back to the pull out the playbook of the hybrid warfare, how to counter it, and move it from the 1.0 to 2.0. And today we have to counter the hybrid threats that are like in listed number, they are more, but also they are enhanced in capabilities. And one on the hybrid warfare, so from 2.0, also there is, and I was intrigued yesterday by one of the perspectives brought yesterday, and was former Deputy Secretary General of NATO. I don't know, be wrong in the pronunciation. Then he said, okay, hybrid warfare is obsolete. So we are living now on the era of permanent confrontational warfare. So it's not a hybrid, it's a permanent confrontational warfare. It never stops, it's always in here. We just have to adapt and react to those things. And from the military perspective, then we say, okay, we know the threats, but then we try to develop like an operation, we say in a military operational approach, that we start, okay, to understand the environment, understand the context. And then in this environment and context, we should identify the problem. And then after we identify the problem, we have to come up with the solution. There is, of course, there is a connection. On the first point is understanding. And my take on this one is we don't necessarily, I mean, the democracy has a beauty that we agree to disagree. But when it comes to certain things, at least that's my perspective, and I think we are in the Chatham House rules and non-attribution policy, it's the perspective of understanding is, I think for certain things, and this brings us to the NATO context or EU context, but how that implies to the nations, although the nations have the right to have their national interests and pursue their national interests, is a shared common understanding. Because then, at times, we might end up as we almost were, or not almost, we were in certain times during the global war on terror. Someone's terrorist was the other guy's freedom fighter. And if we don't share the same understanding of the threat, where it's coming from, who is the actor, and not to play the blame game, but to state the fact, because sometimes it is, we talk and we don't address the elephant in the room in cases, and that brings me to the region. And the region is highly under pressure, especially Western Balkans, from the external actors. But then there are certain actors in the region that are becoming the hub of these external actors to pursue their hybrid warfare and affect the cohesion of the nations in the region. And if you affect the cohesion of the nations or one of the nations, then somehow you are making your way through. I was thinking just before hearing the discussions, it is one of the points, and I might elaborate more, is self-reliance versus the common resilience. We cannot approach, I mean, if I think, okay, I have all the resource and everything, so I can be self-reliant, so I have built on my own resilience, but if my two neighbors are not resilient enough, it doesn't matter how tall is the wall of my house. If their house is broken and his house is broken, then I'm left the only person to be attacked, and my house will be broken very soon. So, and that also avoids the weakest point. Yesterday was mentioned that the weakest link. It's always the human nature, and in military, that's what we do in principles of war. So we are looking for the weakest point of the enemy. And in that, it's not only the individual weakest point. When it comes to the regional approaches or international approaches or organization, it is we have to maintain the whole ring at this, the whole ring at the same strength. Because if one nation has the ability to do its best, but the next one doesn't have, of course, it can live 2 days more than the weakest nation, but always we'll have a weakest link for the ones that are coming after us, that of course they will use it. And the second is the understanding of the resilience in the context of the hybrid warfare, because now we know what are the risks. Now it is how we counter these risks. Assuming that we have the same understanding also for the hybrid warfare, although I was going through the dictionaries, and some of them, or all of them, it's not in the military context, at least what I looked, is it's recovering from a shock. What we are talking, it's not only recovering from a shock. It doesn't matter what the shock is. It's like an external, internal, or nature, but it's not recovering only. For us now, it's a different approach. We understand the resilience as prepare, absorb, recover, adapt, and transform. Because as we are done with one shock, then we have to prepare for the next one. It's not that, okay, we are done with the shock, and now we have to go and throw the umbrella. So I'll be another rainy day. And that the approach to the hybrid, to the resilience now, it's not a reaction. It's preparation, and sometimes it's even to prevent that, to make it the hybrid warfare less damaging to our societies and to our countries. And then we have to, of course, find the solutions. Okay, don't expect for me to provide recipe I don't have. the solutions, but still I'll throw some ideas for some of the, because there is a list what we should do. And normally when we present a list, there is you put them items one after another, but I think although sometimes it's not possible, we should work on, sometimes the list needs needs to be observed like a merit-wise. And sometimes, because it's a matter of perspective, and yesterday was, when we make the list, that was one of the things that helps our resilience is building trust. And one of the speakers yesterday, one of the commentators said, 1, 2, 3, last but not least, building trust. I don't know if the person in the room, I don't necessarily agree that we should, and if you ask me for the resilience, I say it's first is building trust, because it starts with the people. And either you put it in the national level, regional level, or international level, it is with the people. First, trusting in each other, and second is the public trust. Trusting each other is the communities, they get together and they have to trust. But the most important part is that public trust. And what we are suffering today, unfortunately, and it has been, I think, by some of the accounts, or by most of the accounts that I have read, the public trust in the last decades, it's eroding and it's going down. So the public trust is the people. And I think everything starts with the people. So if you don't have the people, it doesn't matter how fancy the list of capabilities is or what capabilities. The people don't trust on what they have to do, and they are not convinced on the messages they are getting, then the capabilities are worthless. If you put in the military context, we say, and there are examples of war in there, there is a famous approach of Napoleon that says the strength to morale is like, the morale to strength is 3-to-1. So you might be less equipped, but if you have a strong morale, you can make it through. So if you don't have a society that starts, and that's the societal part of the, from individual, the societal resilience is the whole of the society. And the whole of society is having, not necessarily everyone, because then there will be a distorted meaning of democracy, because then where is the right not to agree with something? But when it comes to the resilience of a nation, resilience of an alliance, then we have to work on building trust. And on this point, that was my observation yesterday, and I think would be one of my recommendations on building trust. I was talking to some of the EARC colleagues last night, and if you see around the room now, so I wear glasses, and I'm not good at distinguishing, you look all young, by the way, so don't get me wrong. But what yesterday probably we have millennials in the room, but we don't have Gen Z in the room. And we don't have Gen Z in the audience, but the Gen Z is in some countries is the majority, or at least if it's not the majority, is the future. And I was challenged with the point, we don't have to make them understand us. We have to make ourselves understand them. But then how we build this understanding? Because if we build the understanding, then of course we have made a step in building the trust. Because we all think, at least in my perspective, I have enough gray hair to say, yeah, I think my son, my daughter, they are crazy. They have taken everything for granted. So talking to them about resilience and telling them like, okay, you might be a day that you go in the underground and you have 3 days of food and there will be no internet, not this, not, oh, come on. That's not fair, that's not true, you are crazy. And I think we have to bridge that gap. The gap between the generation to understand the same way what resilience is and what the threats are. For them is an iPhone, an iPad, smartphone, earbuds, and just TikTok and stuff, and going crazy. And then if you tell them life is not like that, oh, come on, you are an old-fashioned guy, so keep talking your thing, but the reality is what we live in. So they have taken for granted, as my generation took for granted out of the Cold War, the peace. And one of the gentlemen yesterday made a point, so the peace dividend. So the peace dividend, we are paying now the peace dividend. of the era of the post-Cold War, because now we are entering the phase of putting in the context of the profound change of our security environment is that the war in our doorstep or in our continent, now it has reignited the countries to go after the military capabilities. So it's affecting us in one way or the other. And that to be put from the individual perspective, then to the SEDM, and then to the CIBRIC that is at the smallest part. It is important, the trust, because it starts with the people. I work every day, and that has been I'd say the cherry on the top of my military career. Working with the 6 different military, with 6 different nations or personnel from 6 different militaries, and I think it has achieved one of the goals. Is that enough? I don't think it's never enough, so we always have to pursue, and we have to go for the next one. I was talking to my good friend last night. He's younger than me. I'm not happy with that. And I said, okay, human beings, I believe in science. There is the evolution theory. And my approach to the youngsters has always been, okay, you know why we are here today, why the humanity is where it is now, and it's just breaking every ceiling? Because everyone was aiming for something, and is aiming from something. Because if humans didn't challenge themselves and didn't want to go one step further, one inch higher, then we'd be still on the trees. So we'd be the same era like forever. But because we strive every day for more and for better, that's what makes us stronger and having a better life. But still, the development and everything else comes with the risks that are part of our life. The other point that I want to make is the civil-military relations. You know, in this part of one of the domain or one of the pillars in the civilian preparedness that intends to provide continuity of government, continuity of essential services, and then support to the military operations. That's the point where the civil-military relations is important. But I want to see from the different perspective. I didn't want to intervene when the point about the reserve or the reservist component was made, because I wouldn't have screwed my point in here. That's why I saved it. But there was made a point by the Major, and I'm happy you brought that up, that there is a reserve component that is part of military structure that you involve them in the operations, but there is then the reserve or the retired militaries. That is, I think, one of the most, probably the less tapped source to help the resilience component in the society. Why I say that? In the military, as militaries, I mean the ones in uniform I can recognize, we have not taken for granted resilience, but it's part of DNA, because when we design an operation, we do have continuation of government in there. We call it C2, command and control. We know until the last soldier who is the boss, who is the second. So we never end up saying, okay, who is the boss today? We know that. And then when it comes to building up the resilience from the operational perspective, we have lines of defense. So we have the first line, second line, third line, because we assume the first line is going to fall. So we have to keep ourselves alive. And then we have the logistic approach. We store things. We never go out without a backpack. So we know the resilience. And this expertise and this thing has to come to the civilian institutions, because then we go from the military, knowing how the resilience work, to inserting it to the rest of the society, making a societal approach of the resilience. But of course, then the part that the military is always ready in there to support, that's, unchallenged. The COVID was one of the examples, even from the NATO perspective, SEDM perspective, CIBRIC perspective, at small scale, we are a small thing, but it was recognized that the military was a big part of the response to the COVID-19. We have, but also was a lessons learned that we were not necessarily prepared on the very first day. It took us some time to get ready and response. And one more thing a couple of more things, actually, is infrastructure domain, that in the regional context and where CBRI can find itself. Critical infrastructure is one of the things that is a target to the state actors or non-state actors to be like targeted, and then that puts the whole society in disturbance, being that the electrical grids, being the transportation, the routes of transportation, railways, airports, whatever, the list is long. But then where Western Balkans or the CBRI nations actually put their, or Western Balkans should I put in the context, we have less sea communication lines because of the construct. But there is like more than 50% of the freight goes through land. 51% of the freight within the Western Balkans goes through land. And there are two main corridors that go through that area. It's the Corridor 10 and Corridor 8. Are we at the point that we can build resilience if we need to react and taking things from point A to point B at the speed of the relevance? Because that would be my last point to make, but it's like it's coming down. Actions, it's sometimes, not some, it's all the time. It's about the speed of relevance. Speed of relevance in decision making and speed of relevance in action. You can make a good decision, but could be too late, and there is no point on that. So if you don't make the decision on time, then it doesn't matter how nice decision that looks, because you are too late to act. And then from decision, from the words to the action, that the speed of relevance to act, that's very important too, because after the math, we all can be like good in the hindsight and make build up our judgment and everything, but where were we when the thing was happening? So that is the speed of relevance when we act. And I'm closing my remarks that saying that we still, although we are in the good path, I would say that as I said when I started, like yesterday, I said, okay, wow, everything is said now. We know everything, or we know almost everything, so let's go and do it. And this is the point that is the hardest one. It's easier said than done, as we usually say. And that makes me like, okay, open the discussion, of course. I hope I have triggered some like discussions in here, but at the end is, even if we don't know everything, that's fine, we can learn. But for what we know, it is how we can turn it into action. And I think we know enough for now to build our resilience. Now it's for us, for everyone in the room, or for our societies and for our governments, now moving from the what we know, putting a wheel behind what we know, because we all know that if there is a will, there is a way. So if you have the wheel, if we have the will, of course we can survive any threat that comes. Thank you very much. If I was too long, I apologize for that.
Thank you very much, General. So we are changing the approach. Right now I'm asking you for comments or questions for the commanding officer of the CBRI.
Make them easy, okay, please.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Thank you, General Beachley, for providing us with a very insightful presentation, and it was brilliantly delivered. And although there are old things, you managed to present it in a new way and to keep us awake about the things. But I want to start from the ending of your presentation, and I actually wanted to find what's next and what is the next section. And this comes my question. How do you see how to package all the knowledge, all the issues that you mentioned, trust, teaching the new generation, balancing resilience with flexibility, and going from trees to stars. And how do you see how to better go further on this, and how to manage to rule the wheel that you mentioned? And most probably, what will be the role of the CBRIC in this context? Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir, for the question. You know, every question is challenging. I'll try to give my my perspective. There is, if I would be in the position like writing a prescription, then like I would be a doctor and you go to the drugstore, you buy the medicine, and then you are done with the. But still, I think, of course, there are things that we can do, and on the domain of the, as I was saying, like we have different interests, and there are competing interests, there are competing goals, competing objectives. And we are allowed to be like competitive in this world because that's what they have chosen. We have chosen the free market economy and everything else. But then I think in certain areas, although we have to be competitive when it comes to face the challenges that we have, as I said, first it comes the understanding we don't necessarily and we cannot have the same interest. But I think, and what we should do, nations should do, we have to align some of our interests. And when it comes to aligning some, it is in our interest not to allow external actors, for example, like take space in our midst. If I have to make it like, as I said, Chatham House rules, of course, it's like if you see integration process, it's taking the nations that are out of an organization that provides it's the future of the continent or the future of the world. I have to bring here the point of Euro-Atlantic integration for my country of the Western Balkans. We do know it's a criteria in there, but we have to understand that, and they have to be met. But then you have to put that, or to confront them, to put them against what is the risk of going too long and leaving the area empty. Because I think now from my own perspective my assessment is, of course, we are not perfect. But if you leave me aside for very too long, somebody else is taking the space. In the football, you say, I mean, after the match, you say, yeah, they left the midfield empty. So the other team took it, that's why we lost. So if you leave the field empty, somebody will take it. And that's why I say we have to align. We don't necessarily have to have the same interest, but we can align some of our interests, because that becomes part of the teaching. Because I think we all take our kids to school. We have gone to schools. I, unfortunately, but also fortunately, I'm in a communist era educated professional. And I'm happy to be the one that witnessed what was the communist era and what is now. I was indoctrinated and whatever. I was told everything, and I almost believed in everything. It was North Korea of the East Europe, Albania. But then the window opened, and I developed the understanding. It is this thing, so we have to open the windows for the young generation. Bring them in. Not that the windows are closed. The windows are open. But we have to increase their awareness. I mean, take that was from the mayor, so we have to send people explaining to them the real world. They think the real world is like this 2-inch or 3-inch thing. No, the real world is what the Ukrainians are suffering directly today, and what are the nations that are closer to Ukraine are going through today. So that's the reality that they have to understand, and then we can bring them to board. What CIPRI can do, and of course we are trying, and once again I have to give credit to the Romanian chairmanship, is we have been around for 26 years. If you exist, you have to be used. There is a famous expression of, I can't attribute it. They say if you cannot attribute something, say Churchill has said it, but I don't know who said it. If you have an army and don't use it, give it to me. So if you have something and don't use it, like give it to someone else that can make use of it. We exist, and my push for since for 2 years under the leadership of the Romanian chairmanship, and I hope we'll continue with the Hellenic chairmanship, is to make ourselves more, be closer to communities, more tangible and more effective. Not only they know we exist, they can touch us. They can touch us by the acts. And that's why we are in a path to establishing a standby force for the disaster, and that is precisely for the resilience factor, for the disaster response operations. But of course, we are trying to develop the lines of actions that were put forward by Romania, that making Sibrig more, or connecting Sibrig more with the real things that are around us, because the context of 1999 and context of 2025 are two different contexts. They are far apart. From 1999 to 2025, NATO has gone through 2 strategic concepts, 3, I don't know, restructuring process, a lot of things changed and adapting itself. Sibrig has made its own way through, but not with the speed that the NATO has moved. So we have to move from our regional approach to be integrated, but still serve to the region. Thank you very much.
I would like, I'm Alexander Rucinescu from the Institute of Political Studies.
You have something right now? Yeah? Just a second, thanks.
Sorry for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I will have 2 commands on the ideas of our guests, and also a question. The 2 commands goes to, first, to the intergenerational connections, but in a broader historical and time framework, and the other command goes to the idea of trust. If you look at the time of von Moltke, because we have discussed about this quite distant time in history, for them and for von Moltke himself, the war was part of the hardships of life. It was something you have to endure. It is something that means to make sacrifices, to accept death, and to accept sufferance. Now, if you look at the idea of resilience in this perspective, assuming the capacity to be resilient means assuming this kind of outline of life. If you assume a life of comfort, if you assume a life where the sufferance and death are exiled, you will not be able to make the sacrifices that defense of your values requires. So when we look at Europe and you see the very disturbing results of the surveys where we see that the will to fight, the will to defend is not at all at high values, you become to be worried. You start to be worried. But you're worried of why you're worried. Because we need a different kind of culture. Because we need to go back in a way, not only to leave to the military ethics, to the professional ethics, the idea of sacrifice, of sufferance and death, but large-scale wars demands now for the whole population to be involved. But the whole population should support this kind of approach to life in a way, to the hardships of life. Now, moving to the second commentary, which is trust. Trust means vulnerability, means assuming that I'm vulnerable and I depend on the other to help me when I need. But to be helped means that the other one is willing at his turn to make sacrifices, to suffer for myself if this is required, to suffer for my house, as you've mentioned before. So assuming this kind of sufferance is an indispensable element of trust. So the idea is that if we really want to consider more resilience, I think we should start from looking at the culture, at the outlook of life generally, which underpins true resilience. And my question is like this one: what can you really think you can do in your capacity, for example, and in the field of military, to explain to the civilians, because military, by their profession, are within the sphere of this outlook of life and profession. But civilians are not. So what can we do? Because we shall rely on their numbers, on their fighting power for this kind of wars. What can we do for them to explain, to make them assume this outlook of life? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I already said, please make the easy question. You are going all through the hard questions. Well, if I can, since you brought the two different eras in the context of von Moltke time and our time, so where is the gap between then and now, how we understand the context? I think, as I said, we are paying the peace dividend, because I think, from the accounts that I have read, is until 1945, because from 1945 to now, from the World War perspective, this is the longest peace that the world has enjoyed. And they used to say, the scholars say, this is the norm used to be the war, and the peace was the aberration. And that's why I think everyone in the Moltke's time was prepared for suffering, because the war was was part of life. After the end of the World War II, I think Cold War, although was like a standoff thing, but especially after the Cold War, I think we came to the point that, okay, we all took for granted that there is no war. So that's why I think where we went to the point that we disconnected with the public. We disconnected for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, we ourselves, we said, okay, there is no war, so let's cut. And we all took scissors. And also that sends a message. If you cut the military from 50,000 to 30,000, it's okay, there is no war. We just have to have something like a decoration in the house. Because everyone has a decoration, we have to have a decoration. Because it's every reaction is informed by the action. So the threat was low, was assumed to be low. So we went to okay, let's go to the beaches. Even NATO itself said, okay, we have to find a purpose, and we invented, not to invent it, that was a great thing, out of the area operations. But still, there was a fragmentized thing when it comes to the public. Public was almost and you had for the last decade, now it has changed, the tide, was hard to have people in the professional militaries to bring people join the military, because there was no feeling. My generation was military service is it's a profession. I want to provide for my family, but it's also a call that my nation is making to me. But today that doesn't exist. So I think we have to pull the playbook out and review the playbook and how we have to connect, and we have to connect with the public. And I think that goes in the sphere of the communication. And first do things good, and then, sell them to the public. I think it's a two-way street. You cannot. You have to find and to assess the context, and then you should go first with make them understand, because you have to have them on board. The militaries are designed in every context to fight the enemy for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Then you have the whole population that has to come, because you cannot fight a war with 50,000 soldiers that you have. So you have to retain your strength. Then you start asking the people. You can force them in wartime, but you have to make them want now to know when they have to bring themselves to the military. And I think it's, aside from the messaging and education, everything starts with, I think, in my perspective, for society as a whole, everything starts with the education. So if you can start from the kindergarten, maintaining that although we are enjoying everything, there is a dark side of life. And that dark side is a step away. It doesn't matter how much you are prepared. I think we have to start from the young age. We always have to know there is always peace and war. Not only we live in peace, forget about war. There is peace and the threat or the danger of having a war. Only in that way we can make the public understand and connect with the military, and then they'll be willing to support our operations every day, but of course willing to provide for resilience and then for the war itself if it happens to come to our doorstep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other requirements from the floor? Okay, I have one. So General, you are of course you know, the commanding officer of a military formation, which is in a way unique. You have some organizations very close to you, I mean the staff headquarters, and you have military units far away from you, which, well, it's complicated. It's making your life probably a little bit more complicated than in a kind of a national framework. Being a military commander speaks about you being a leader, inspiring people, and as well being a manager, administering. You have to administer the military organization, which is an organization. So you have your own obligations that are in your requirements folder, taking the form of some tasks and the purpose, and you have a mission. Tasks and purpose, you have a mission. Unifying purpose, and you have a mission. So you have clear obligations, I would say. You are as well, as is normal, you are given some tools. And because you have to, at the end of the day, if you are so required, to build, to construct an op plan, and to employ, to use, and to transform the, let's say, the op plan into actionable, let's say, tools. And you are given, roughly speaking, generally speaking, authorities, and I'm speaking about, you know, the military kind of COM, TACOM, and so on, and ADCON, administrative control. You are given resources, you are given an organizational chart, an organizational structure, you are given some training, let's say, facilities, opportunities, and so on and so forth. And everything is, or should be, constructed, built, in order to make you enough powerful to really influence your military units in a way you want, in order to be sure that they are capable of doing what they should be doing in a real scenario. My question is, had you the power to change something, what would you change in terms of course, not the tasks that you are given, because they are coming from the high authority, but in terms of the tools you are given as well in order to fulfill the tasks that are coming from above. So had you the opportunity, had you the power, what would you change? Thanks.
Thank you very much. There's a famous expression of Donald Rumsfeld during his time as the Secretary of Defense, and he said, and I think it's become, no, it's part of us now. It's you fight with the army that you have, not the army that you want, because we all design, and then there is always, will be always like a discrepancy. You know, the acquisition process and the speed of development and technology. So you design or you write down some military requirements today. You like acquire them in 5 years, and when you acquire them, the technology has already moved from the point where we started. So we will be always challenged, but I think still it's our job, it's our mission to meet the objective with the army that we have, not with the army we want. The CIBRIC, and you stole my line saying, is a unique, and it's really a unique multinational military formation for a lot of reasons. Not because it's multinational, because it's not the only one. We have a lot. Thanks God, and they are the ones that we have in the NATO thing. But we are part of NATO, but not in NATO, if you will, to put this way, because the nations that are part of CIBRIC are all NATO members today. They were not necessarily in 1999. But still, we are not organically connecting to NATO. So I'm moving to the second question. So what you would do different if you, or what you change in the CIBRIC? I put in the like a broader phrase when I initially took command. I had a couple of months in the job and reading and learning about things, and I said, okay, we have to repurpose the CIBRIC. Initially it was designed like on the context, perfectly designed and with a mission and everything else for peace support operations. But today in our era, if you go to NATO, if you go to GFC Naples, if you go anywhere, although including the United Nations, not necessarily they have kinetic operation, but they are looking for niche capabilities. But for the NATO, it's okay, it's not our goal today, it's not peace support operations. So, and going back to the point that I made, if you have something, you have to make use of it. That's what I would actually have started, as I said, with the chairmanship of Romania, trying to shift from like narrow mission to a broader mission so we can be part of the whole of the European architecture of defense, not only part of peace support operations after the fact. We have to be part of the thing. We have to have our contribution. So that's what I have to change. But that, of course, it takes a lot. And going to the first thing, so the uniqueness of the CIBRIC is like the approach, or if you, for most of you that might be more familiar with NATO, is there are no soldiers in Brussels. There is our in shape. Our headquarters and the soldiers or the armies are with the nations. And the same with the CIBRIC. There are no soldiers today in Kumanovo or in North Macedonia, but soldiers are with the nations. We have a connection. What I would like, and we have already started, is making this connection stronger. Because if we are talking, that brings me on my own domain. If I was saying building trust and confidence, I mean you first, and I think everyone in here in the military, that's the first thing. So you don't have the trust and confidence of the people you lead, then you are lost. And you cannot build the trust seeing them once for 2 years. But that has given me the opportunity, General, to travel the countries. If I had all of them in Kumanovo, I wouldn't have visited your country 5 times for the last 2 years. I wouldn't have visited in Turkey. I wouldn't have visited. That's like the advantage of being exposed and learning more about the countries. But on this note, we are trying to use this to connect the CIBRIC headquarters with the units more. So we have launched a few like small steps. Of course, change takes time and of course takes resources, and I do understand the nations when it comes from their or individual perspective. They have competing like priorities, if I can put that way. So if you go to the Chief of Defense of Romania and say CIBRIC, no, says first comes NATO. First comes this one, Multinational Division Southeast, because that's where my like gravity is, and then of course comes CIBRIC. Because the nature of mission puts CIBRIC on that. That's why if I had to change something, and what we are trying to do is repurpose the CIBRIC and make it more like part of the whole security context in the region. I don't know if I answered good enough, General.
Excellently, thank you very much. And follow up, are you regularly training with a two-star headquarters?
Yes and no. That's one of the lines of the action that the Romania is pushing forward, because we want ourselves to align with, that's why I say we are like unique, because we are all member NATOs, and I use the metaphor of the fishing boat. So imagine the sea is NATO. If each one of our countries goes with its own boat to fish on the sea, they can fish. Albania is a NATO member. I can go with my boat, you can go with your boat, and we all can fish on the NATO sea. If you put all of us in one boat and you put the sign CIBRIC, the NATO will say, no, you are not going to fish in here, because CIBRIC, we do know CIBRIC exists, but we don't have an organic connection with the CIBRIC. So that's why it puts us in a unique position that we are trying to break through and change it.
I wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. So other comments or questions for General? Not at this time. So it's my privilege to thank you very much for your contribution, for your insights, and I'm sure that all you've said already will, let's say, be analyzed further by all our participants as well. Although in Chatham House, somehow your proposals, your concerns will be, let's say, solved because they will be heard by those in charge and capable of solving them. Thanks a lot. Right now we have the privilege to go to the next speaker, Miss Irina Dumitrița Solomon. And she had a brilliant career, already state secretary and another very important positions. And she's coming from the civilian life, which is good because we've had mainly the military men speaking. And she will be speaking about, she will inform us about disinformation. So she is a specialist in both, so be aware. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, General. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank for the invitation to IARC team and to congratulate them for organizing this wonderful event. There are a lot of insightful perspectives here, and I'm really honored to be here. I'm not really from the civil society, I'm rather from the private sector. After previous being in charge with some strategies from the from the government, I was in charge with coordinating the Romanian strategy on preventing and combating anti-Semitism, xenophobia, radicalization and hate speech. And now I'm in the private sector working with several tech companies. And this is why I have chosen this subject to talk about disinformation today as a key element of hybrid operations that actually undermines our societal resilience. So disinformation today is no longer just about fake news. It is a complex tactic that blends truth with manipulation, facts with emotion, and real events with distorted narratives. It is cheap, it is fast, it is deniable and psychologically complex, and it usually targets our social fault lines, distrust in institutions, political and societal polarization, and also identity debate. The real challenge, however, is not only addressing these falsehoods and counteract them, but rather to address a gap, a credibility gap, if I can use this word, to rebuild the trust in institutions and also between citizens. Our democracies are still adapting to the challenges of the digital age, and we have an environment where hostile state actors and private entities exploit vulnerabilities in cybersecurity, social media governance, and also in public awareness. For instance, the World Economic Forum ranks misinformation and disinformation among the top global risks, and they are also make a point regarding the generative AI that enables false and manipulative content to spread faster and wider than ever before, reinforcing polarization and eroding public trust. Also, according to a 2024 Eurobarometer, 82% of Europeans see false or misleading information as a threat to democracy. And one of the main areas where this disinformation manifests is elections. And I have one example from the electoral campaign for the European Parliament from last year. An analysis covering 52 European fact-checking agencies in 20 countries found that more than 5 false items of information were detected every day during the electoral campaign, showing the persistent scale of this phenomenon. And also the study notes that this disinformation does not end when the polls close. False narratives continue to circulate long after election day. Beyond elections, disinformation has also shaped public perceptions about the war in Ukraine, not only on the battlefield, but also when we are talking about the European informational space. Since 2022, Russian-linked information operations have sought not only to delegitimate Ukrainian authorities and justify aggression, but also to weaken European support to Ukraine. The European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats notes that disinformation campaigns aim to undermine the legitimacy of the Ukrainian government and its allies, depict sanctions at harming European citizens, and shift attention to alleged corruption or inefficiency of Western aid. According to an important European database, EU versus Disinfo database, more than 1,000 documented cases of false or misleading content related to Ukraine were recorded only in 2023, mainly targeting European audiences. Pro-Kremlin narratives have sought to portray the Ukrainian authorities as illegitimate, misusing the Western support and betraying European interests, thereby eroding trust in continued assistance to Ukraine. Another common tactic was to circulate stories comparing Ukrainian refugees receiving benefits with local citizens struggling, and this was the case also in Romania. As literature and practice show, the goal is to limit the spread of disinformation, ensuring that fewer citizens are exposed to this content, and those who are become more aware and are able to question and verify this kind of information. Because we need to say something. Eliminating disinformation is a realistic task. We can build awareness, build trust in institutions and between citizens, and in this manner make manipulation far less effective. And we need, in order to counteract this kind of hybrid actions, so disinformation, we need to have a whole of society approach to involve education, trusted institutions and active partnership, whether we are talking about national, regional or global levels. And let's begin with the first one, education and media literacy. As many scholars have noted, we are living in a post-truth era, a time when, depending on what one wants to be true, some facts matter more than others. And in this context, information literacy and science literacy have proven to reduce vulnerability to misinformation and disinformation, and then tendency to share it. Building resilience, therefore, needs to integrate critical thinking and information evaluation into schools, professional training, and public awareness campaign. Governments should also invest in long-term education and in supporting a partnership with media, with independent media, in order to support high-level journalism. And a well-known example in this regard is Finland, where media literacy is treated as a pillar of national resilience. It is included in security strategy for society in the national curriculum from early education onward. And citizens, not only students, are engaged through lifelong learning. For example, libraries, NGOs, and municipalities are organizing some media training. Media outlets are participating in awareness campaign and fact-checking initiatives. Of course, education alone isn't enough, because even the most informed citizens need to be able to rely on trusted institutions that communicate clearly, transparently, and consistently. And the trust is built when official sources provide rigorous and reliable information, information that also citizens can access easily and in a timely manner. Because if we can see, I don't know, uncertainty from the institution, this space will be filled with speculation or distorted narratives. However, we have another challenge here, because building and maintaining this trust in institutions remain a major challenge. And I have another data from OECD collected from nearly 60,000 respondents across 30 countries. And they are saying that more than 4 in 10 people report low or no trust in their national governments and institutions. So trust levels are significantly lower among people that are facing financial difficulties and those who are who feel part of a discriminated group, but also with lower levels of education. So these disparities show that social cohesion and economic security are directly linked to institutional credibility. We have the NATO Strategic Communication Center of Excellence that highlights very well that effective institutional communication must be timely, accurate, and responsive, but also grounded in credibility and consistency. Neither governments nor media can face this challenge alone because disinformation operates beyond borders, beyond sectors. This is why we need some solid partnerships between governments, academia, civil society, and media. And I have some examples that prove to be efficient so far. We have this database that I have mentioned before, the EU versus Disinfo initiative, launched by the European External Action Service that provides a practical example of coordination. It systematically documents and analyzes disinformation cases targeting European audiences, publishing verified data and narratives for public awareness and media education. It was launched in 2015, and since then there are over 17,000 documented cases, especially regarding pro-Kremlin narratives. Another example is the European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats that supports cooperation between the EU, NATO, and partner nations by facilitating joint research, policy coordination, and training exercises on hybrid and information threats. And the NATO Strategic Communication Center of Excellence that I've mentioned before. While progress has been made in countering disinformation, there are several risks that continue to emerge alongside the solutions. We have the rise of artificial intelligence that has introduced new layers of complexity into the information space. We have AI-driven systems that can generate false or manipulated content at a scale, from deepfakes to synthetic news that make traditional verification methods increasingly insufficient. This technology evolution requires a reassessment of our current existing regulatory frameworks to ensure that they address the vulnerability and the increasingly sophisticated nature of AI-enabled disinformation. The challenge lies not only in defining and regulating such advanced threats, but also in ensuring that these regulations remain flexible and robust enough to keep pace with rapid technological change. At the same time, we have the risk of overreaction and excessive or poorly designed restrictions could undermine the very principles aimed to protect, and we are talking about freedom of speech, open debate. And as several analysts point out, the risk of harm from overregulation can in some cases exceed the risk posed by inaction. Also, this kind of overregulation can also limit the innovation that these actors can bring. So effective responses therefore require proportionate and transparent regulation grounded in evidence and democratic oversight. Last but not least, another emerging challenge is the growing fatigue and polarization of the information space. We are currently and constantly exposed to conflicting narratives and manipulative content that can lead to disengagement and can erode trust in legitimate sources. And when citizens no longer believe that reliable information exists, even verified facts lose their persuasive power, a condition that directly weakens societal resilience. And I will go to the conclusions. The main approach that can be taken into consideration when we are talking about countering disinformation, because we can see that it's not just a communication problem, it is a strategic one. is this whole of society approach. So we need educated citizens who can navigate the information space critically. We need also trusted institutions that can communicate clearly and transparently, and partnerships that link governments, academia, the private sector, and civil society. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward for your comments and questions.
Thank you very much, madam. So, the same mechanism applies, where, as we say in the military vernacular, the drills, the same drills apply. Please.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Thanks for presentation. Very interesting information. A short question for you. But first of all, let me introduce the topic that I want to approach. It seems the misinformation, the propaganda, or whatever you call it, is not our time's issue. It comes from the past and for sure will go in the future. So it's not in our time's issue. So we confronted it before, and for sure humanity will confront it in the future. What was changed along this continuous of time was the technology and the means and the way that this disinformation and propaganda was done. My question is, based on your study, you mentioned some conclusions. They are not new, maybe they are not old. It seems that have some value added if they are properly implemented. But let me ask you, what is your opinion? You are kind of the next generation, yeah? So you will be in the future more than us. What do you think this issue of disinformation will be ever solved, or will be a continuous fight with?
Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, I think the fight against disinformation will continue. As you mentioned, we are not talking about new things. We are talking about new ways of spreading disinformation, misinformation, propaganda, and so on. And as we cannot eradicate this phenomenon because we aren't able so far, I don't know, maybe in the future we can identify specific ways to eradicate this phenomenon. So we have to fight this disinformation, but we have to adapt our responses to the technological evolution because it is important to have a balanced approach and to adapt to the challenges that these technological companies and evolution will bring. So it is a never-ending story.
So will be always an adaptation.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
a reaction.
Okay, I think I'm allowed to ask questions. I was the one that answering all the questions. Now I have the chance to ask questions. Thank you for the insightful presentation, and I think it's along the same line. There is a famous saying of Churchill during the World War II. It says, until the truth has put on its pants, the lie has made a tour around the world. And I think this has been, it's one of the lessons identified when it comes to messaging or reaching the public was during the NATO operation in Afghanistan. It is, and you know, the bad news travels fast. So that's the point. So, and I think in our time now, it's the question would be like how we make ourselves going faster to respond, because normally. At least I know in the military, you have to go through a tick boxes. So because we want, of course, not avoiding the principles, we want to be true what we say. We care about the truth. The other side doesn't care. It cares about making the turmoil. But then we have to be fast enough because the space is already being taken and has made the way through. So how we can be faster in countering the disinformation. Thank you.
From my perspective, I think that we are not on a balanced environment because, yeah, as you said, when we are talking about institutions, there are multiple layers that should be approached. Therefore, meantime, disinformation spread without rules, without anyone to interfere and to intervene and to put the things in the right order. So what I do think will work is to multiply some good practices that already NATO has in order to simplify this kind of communication and to adapt strategic communication to these challenges. So to have early warning prevention mechanisms and to make these partnerships between governments and institutions more rapid in order to share good practices, responses, and to make, I don't know, guidelines that help to interfere properly and in a timely manner. But I think it's very difficult to do this because on the other side there are no rules, and we have to adapt to this challenge, and it's very difficult. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm afraid I have to stop the flow of discussions at this point because we are a little bit pressed by time. And thank you very much, madam, for the insightful presentation. And I'm totally sure that you put people in a state to think again about information and disinformation. Last but not least, we have the pleasure and honor to listen from Colonel Ciprian Pripoae Șerbănescu. He is an associate professor with the National Defense University, an artilleryman by training, by military training, but as well a psychologist that speaks about him being a student in terms of studying and a specialist in mind and human behavior. And he will be speaking about cognitive security. Thank you very much, with the same kind request to be as concise as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation. My job here is to convince you that the most critical infrastructure is the minds of the people. So I hope I'm not be boring with some psychological language and notions. Please, next slide. I will try to link very fast these notions: hybrid warfare, cognitive warfare, and of course societal resilience with cognitive security. Next one. I have 7 minutes. What is cognitive warfare? Dear General asked me to clarify the difference between cognitive warfare and psyops. There is a common core, because also psyops and cognitive warfare target a lot of psychological processes, perception, representations, decision-making. What is really different, and I want to clarify some of the questions that have been addressed here. Why is new, and why we have to pay attention to cognitive warfare? Nowadays, ability to know human psyche, it's at the highest level. When we connect with the internet, we give all relevant information to the stakeholders, let's say, so to the owners, to create a very detailed, complex psychological profile. So it's not just the AI that talks to us, it's us who gives a lot of information to social media and artificial intelligence. Why it's important to understand this? Because once you have a very clear understanding of human psyche, you can find very easily each vulnerability that can be found there. So we know very, very well how the psyche is working. We have this instrument called social media, and we have these blurred lines between peace and war. So that's why one of the points that I would make at the end is that cognitive warfare is here to stay. PSYOPs is designed to influence perception just to support military operations. Next slide, please. But when we talk about cognitive warfare, it is designed to change the perception on society, whether the regime, political regime where we live is good or bad. If you look on the right side there, you can see, let's say, a short definition of cognitive warfare. It's not just about changing the decision-making or the loop of NATO, is to change the perception on what is good and what is bad in the world. What are the values that worth to be fight for? What are the values that stand for? It's important to see cognitive warfare, from my perspective, as a very important layer of hybrid warfare, maybe the most important one. Please, the next one. You can see here the relations. I think I already spoke about this thing. Hybrid warfare is the largest containing concept that contain this cognitive warfare, information warfare, PSYOPs, and cyber warfare. I want to clarify something. Many experts talk about cognitive warfare by creating all sorts of connection with social media and cyber warfare. But we need to insist on the fact that if we want to win cognitive warfare, we have to understand that the most important effects are on the mental level. And this mental, next slide, please. I'll try to be. It's not just the conscious level. On the previous concept of NATO on cognitive warfare was mentioned this subconscious dimension of mind. Now it has disappeared. Many people talk about cognitive biases as vulnerabilities, but it's important also to talk about belief system, because this belief system is far more difficult to be aware of. And somebody know exactly what are your beliefs. Cambridge Analytica has shown perfectly this thing, but you are not aware of these triggers that can make your decision not very transparent to you. Please, the next one. Probably you realize that the realities in which we live today are created mostly by technology. But as we see in the last elections, if we ignore the imaginary world, the place where people create all sorts of fantasies, all sorts of imagined worlds where things are perfect to get rid of the problem of the reality, we missed a very important point in this cognitive warfare. People live in two realities, and if we don't understand, if we don't see very clear this imaginary world, the fact that using images, words, you can create an alternative reality to the people, to the society, again, you may miss the point on cognitive warfare. Please, the next one. Without vulnerabilities, it will be no PSYOPs, no cognitive warfare. And I want now to address one observation that was made here. Why are we so vulnerable from the, let's say, psychocultural point of view? One of the points is that we don't educate people, we don't educate children as we should. Generation Z didn't land here from nowhere. Generation Z is the product of our education or our families. If they are so fragile, it is because of us, and we have created this vulnerability. I would like to also to observe here that what we have excluded from our cultural, socio-cultural environment is this discussion about death. Not necessarily sacrifice, but directly death. We live in a society that praise happiness. Nobody talks about suffering. Nobody talks about anymore about frustration. And the idea of that, and we have a very good author, Adela Toplanu, who speaks very well about this idea that we don't speak anymore about death as a part of our life. Please, next one, if I have time. Yes, the idea that imaginary, mythology, this belief in, I don't know, invisible energies create vulnerabilities at the level of individual decision-making process, but also on the society and the ability of our institution to rule. Because if we don't have the same reality to represent in the same manner the reality, we are very easily confronted with the perspective to go on the imaginary world, and there it is very difficult to create a dialogue and consent between citizens. The next one, please. Very fast, some definition of cognitive warfare. As you can see, cognitive advantage in the NATO approach, it's focusing especially on decision-making process, and, knowing very well the information environment. The focus is on the decision-making process. The next one, please. For the European Union, cognitive warfare, disinformation, propaganda, it's associated with FIMI, foreign information manipulation and interference. And as you see, the focus is not anymore on the military decision process, but on the political level. And health disinformation, you know, the COVID, all this era with this all decision that have been made. Please, the next one. What we can do, decisions and measures on Intel level, education, to educate citizens. This site, probably you know, EU disinformation versus disinformation, it's well known. But I would say that just informing people about these problems is just the first step to do. Education that we keep talking about, it's about assuming this kind of frustration. It's about giving courage to the people to take sides, and I will continue on the next slide, please. EU FIMI toolbox. As you see, situational awareness is very important to know what are the variables on the information environment, and especially on a cognitive level. Resilience building, disruption and regulation, and of course, all the measures related to EU external action. The next one, please. I pick up an example from Sweden, because I think they are champions on this fight on the cognitive domain. They have, as you see, a psychological defense agency, and not just Stratcom. I see a step further to create this agency that support not just the government, but also agencies, private sectors, and individuals. Next one. Why is relevant for the Southeastern Europe? Because I think the most important vulnerability is to reactivate all the historical grievances in this region that can be exploited, and of course by encouraging a national sovereignty movement in the member countries. Next one. What are the solutions? A very good information environment analysis with focus on cognitive dimension. Strategic communication, of course, but strategic communication, as was mentioned, should be focused on creating a feeling of community, of nations that are engaged at the same, in the same efforts, and citizens are protected by the institution. And of course, education, And from my perspective, creating this moral compass, because I think kind of lose this moral compass, apparently it's very difficult to make distinction between a state which is aggressor and a state which is victim, and this, through this education, to create cognitive security. Next one, please. Cognitive warfare is far more complex and complicated than psychological operation. It's here to stay, and cognitive security, I think, is the most powerful form of deterrence, because when the enemy knows that our society is cognitive resilient, and probably you know about that movie Sisu, when people are ready to face difficulties, it's not so encouraging to start a war against that country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel. My deepest apologies, but you know how they say in English, real life is raining, and we in Romanian we saying, oamenii sunt sub vremuri, Grigore Ureche, secolul 17, și așa a rămas. Right now, it is my privilege to thank you all, to the speakers, to you for your presence right here, acceptance of us, for your contribution, and then passing the gavel, the baton, the scepter to the organizing for the kind of hors d'oeuvre part of this activity, but super interesting. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks to all the speakers. I have kept in mind some very powerful ideas about shared understanding of the threats, about knowledge as the most important capability that we have to build, about interconnectivity, about umbrella that we have to have when it's raining, and also about the need to build trust. I know that I'm the only one sitting between you and the lunch break, but I kindly ask you to bear with me for the next several minutes in order to present you one of our center projects. Actually, we are a partner in the Eastside Bridge project, strengthening synergies in defense and civilian security. It's an EU-funded project through the Digital Euro program. It's a project that started in 2024 in June. It's a 24 months project and is implemented in a consortium that consists of 17 partners, and I like to salute the presence here of the Professor Gabriel Raicu, Director of the Maritime University in Constanța, that is the leader of the project. I will have this presentation. I hope that I can share the slides. Yes. So, as I mentioned, the consortium consists of 17 different partners from 4 countries, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, and Estonia. We have as partners in this project public institutions, national authorities, academia, both civil and military, private companies, NGOs. The vision of the project is to create synergy and a synergetic framework that bridges the cybersecurity capabilities in both areas, civilian and defense, in the European Union. This project is meant to foster dialogue, to share research, to enhance knowledge for the partners and also for the stakeholders that are going to join the network, to encourage collaboration and on critical European cybersecurity issues relevant to both defense and civilian spheres in the European Union in this cyber domain. These are the objectives of the project: to reinforce coordination and to build synergy, to enhance exchange and coordination between the 2 domains, to converge approach between the most relevant stakeholders in order to build an effective and efficient defense mechanisms that start with mutual understanding. Why is this necessary? Because the traditional siloed approach is no longer available, and because we are in a cyberspace that knows no borders. So we cannot say that we can defend ourselves staying in borders and staying in silos. How we are going to do this? The project comes with this idea of integrating capabilities, with the idea of stakeholder engagement, with the idea of building trust, with the idea of drafting and customizing training sessions that are going to bring together participants from both areas, civilian and defense. Also with proposals that are going to be drafted in white papers and that are going to inform decision in order to enhance the framework, the legislative, the normative framework that is built at the EU level in order to strengthen the cybersecurity. So we have also organized by now, I think that almost 60% of the activities within the project. The project is meant to comprise 2 international conferences. The first one took place last year in December in Constanța. The next one is going to be organized in Constanța this year between 9 and 11 December. You can also see the link for registration is still open, and we would love to have you as participants in Constanța for this conference. We also have as activities 3 international workshops. All 3 of them have been organized already. The first one was organized in November last year, the second one in January this year, and the last one in September. I have to say that the ownership, the leading for these tasks belong to different partners in the project. The first workshop was organized by the National Defense University in Bucharest. The second one was organized by IARC, and the third one by the Institute for Cyber in Bucharest this year. We also have 3 white papers. First one was drafted and delivered in May this year, coming with very interesting conclusions about the reflections and recommendations on current cybersecurity dynamics in the European Union. The second one is an ongoing process, and the third one is going to be drafted and delivered in May next year. As you can see, we have a gradual approach. We have come with this idea of analyzing the current context and come with reflections on what's happening. We will come in the second one with proposals on how to bolster cybersecurity synergy. And the third white paper is going to analyze the impact of emerging and disruptive technologies, and we think about IoT, quantum computing, and also about metaverse. Other activities are, and I think that are among the most important. I cannot say which one are the most important, but it's very important that we have had 2 tabletop exercises already, bringing together experts and participants from both civilian and defense area, with very interesting conclusion that maybe the use of non-binding instruments, the use of regional cooperation, the use of task forces that are going to bring together military and civilian experts in this area. Also, the fact that a very efficient and a very useful instrument that we might use in order to have a rapid response to cyber threats. It would be to have liaison officers that are going to connect the two areas. All these ideas, all these conclusions, all these recommendations come from these activities that we organize. We also have two roundtables. One of them took place in May this year and emphasized the gaps between the two areas and some very interesting observation in relation with the critical infrastructure protection from the cyber perspective, and this roundtable gave us the opportunity to discuss even about the most recent events, the blackout in Spain in April, and how this took place, and how these cyber attacks, or a cyber attack in different areas, in energy and in other critical infrastructure, can impact us, even if we are from civilian or defense area. Also, we have as activities the obligation to build a network that is going to connect professionals from both sectors, that is going to provide the optimal framework for collaboration and interconnectivity, that is going to help in building trust between the two sectors, to facilitate capacity building, and also to create new opportunities for collaboration, because this network is the place where opportunities for and ideas for new projects are going to be shared in order to develop cybersecurity in this current threat landscape. This network is going to bring together different categories of stakeholders: universities, cybersecurity associations, SMEs, NGOs, companies, public institutions, practitioners that are going to contribute to this. These are the steps in building the network. The first one was already completed. The next one that is going to take place until the end of the project is the expansion of the network. And after this, we have at the end of the project, we will have to maintain and extend the network, because maybe it's the most powerful tool that we have built within this project in order to create synergies and to contribute to the cybersecurity of the European Union. As a condition for stakeholders to be part of this network is that they have to have a legal personality in an EU state. Also, another very important activity is the fact that we will come with a network monitor and a scientific database that is going to provide on weekly updated information for the stakeholders that are going to be part of the network. This also will allow the participants to have access to a repository of information and documents relevant for the cybersecurity in the European Union. And last but not least, it's very important that we have, within this project, we have the opportunity to, as I mentioned in the beginning, to customize trainings that are dedicated to participants from both sectors. There are going to be 4 training sessions. The first 2 already have been organized. The last 2 of them are going to take place in February and March next year. The first one is going to take place in Tallinn, the last one in Brussels. And we kindly invite you to spread the word, and also to manifest your intention and your will to be part of this, or at least to to disseminate the information to the cyber experts in your ministries in order to have them as participants. And we also intend to organize at the beginning of the next year, in the first months of the year, dissemination activity that is going to be dedicated to decision makers in states in the region, and starting with the states that are part of the project, are represented in this project by the partners, in order to enhance the understanding of the necessity and utility of such instruments like the network, like the scientific database, like the framework that allows experts in the area to share information in a timely manner in order to be better prepared and to have proactive approach and to build the European Union cybersecurity. I think that this is a very powerful and very useful instrument both for the defense and civilian sector, and the flow of information, freely flow of information from both ends is going to be very useful for this. With this, I will conclude the presentation. I am here, and also my colleague, colleague Alexandru, and other colleagues Gabriela and Valentin that are now in other sessions can provide information about the project, and we are open for any questions, and you can contact us and our partners for our activities. Thank you so much. I hope that I was brief enough.
My final thank you to all of you. You've heard about the project. That's all, folks. Safe trips. Thanks for the foreign visitors, and thank you all for participating in this, I would say, successful activity. Thanks a lot.